Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Megan. I'm a student at John F. Kennedy University. I'm getting my degree in sports psychology, and I'm very excited to talk to you all. A short presentation about communication, and then we're going to do a really fun activity. So, just to start, by a show of hands, who thinks that they are an effective communicator? Okay, okay, a few people. Who, by a show of hands, thinks that they are as effective at listening as they are communicating? Oh wow, you guys are better listeners.
It's all very credit.
Okay, so a lot of times we think of communication simply as just talking, but in reality, listening is more important than talking. And we live in the age of communication, as they say. And I feel there's a lot of talking that happens, but not so much listening. I don't know if you guys would agree with that, but that's what I think. And hopefully by the end of the presentation, you'll be able to define effective communication. You will be able to understand the results of effective communication and how it can affect a good teamwork and a good teamwork atmosphere, the challenges that come with communication, and the qualities that make someone a good communicator. So, can someone share what they think communication is? Stephanie.
Oh, okay. Communication, I think, would be getting your thoughts across, and then getting feedback, maybe from a friend. So, like I'm communicating with Audrey right now, maybe telling her how I feel about a situation, and I'm going to listen to what she has to say about my situation.
Definitely. Does anyone want to add to that?
Conveying information and having that information assimilated correctly.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Full disclosure, I just watched a Rival and that's all about language and communication. I'm taking that movie.
Matt was very spot on with that. Communication is a process of sharing, receiving, and interpreting nonverbal and verbal messages. And effective communication is when those messages are a shared understanding between the sender and the receiver. So exactly what you said, it's interpreted appropriately. And the reason why good communication is so important with teamwork is because as a team, usually there's a desired goal and an outcome that you want to be successful in. And it's important that information is effectively communicated and shared amongst the team so you can be as successful as possible. Okay. So, nonverbal and verbal communication. Nonverbal communication has a few different forms. Obviously, verbal communication is talking, using your voice. Nonverbal is like writing or visual cues, such as a red light, we all know means stop. The little walking man for a crosswalk means to walk. And the last one is body language. And what do you think is the most significant form? Christian?
Body language?
Yeah, body language. So do you guys know who Tony Robbins is? Tony Robbins is?
Yeah.
Yes. So he's an extremely famous motivational speaker, entrepreneur, and he did a lot of studying on communication and how important it is. And he found that 7% of the meaning of what we're saying during face-to-face communication is our words. 38% is the tone of our voice, and 55% of it is our body language, like Christian said. And that's really true, because if you think about it, like if I'm in a fight with, I don't know, my boyfriend, and say he asks me, we get in a fight, and then he's like, all right, so are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I mean, most likely he's going to pick up on my body language, the tone of my voice, over my words. And the reason why communication sometimes can be so bad now is like with texting, you're only relying on the words and you can't read somebody's body language. So some other challenges with communication is that we all are individual and unique, so we all have our own communication styles. So I'm never going to communicate the same way as Jack. Jack is never going to communicate the same way as Heather, and that's okay, and that's like what makes communicating interesting, but we just have to be aware of the fact that we all communicate different. And another challenge is that we have to be aware of the state that we're in when we communicate, as well as the other person that we're communicating with. So I could have just had a terrible night, I didn't sleep, and I just got a ticket on my way in or something. And then I could come into a conversation and someone's, all happy, they're telling me something great, and they could be upset with the way that I'm responding back to what they're telling me. But it's just important to be aware that you can never assume that the other person is in a good place, so you can't just think that someone's gonna be on the same page as you always. So I want you all to take a second to think about a time when you had a communication with someone, a conversation with someone, and it was really enjoyable. You felt as if it was really effective. It could be a one-on-one conversation or like a small group or listening to a presenter. And it's something that made them like a really good communicator. So just think about an instance, and then I just want a few of you to share what qualities you think made them a good communicator. Alright, so who wants to share what they thought of?
I feel like
Yeah.
anytime I've communicated with you, you really got your point across. So I feel like you've got a lot of those situations.
I don't know. I mean, off the top of my head, there's, I don't know, just recently, teaching class, a lot of times you have students and you're conveying information about a specific subject and they have a lot of questions, and now in the digital age, I just remember like asking, why am I doing this, or why am I doing that, or I saw somebody do this, and trying to convey the difference between good form and technique versus applying a visual aid just because you're watching somebody hold something like a handstand doesn't mean they're doing it correctly, and conveying that information to them and having them receive it like something clicks in their body,
Right.
and changing their physical form. I mean,
So being open to like changing how you maybe relay the message.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like how you convey that information, because some people are going to get it, are going to take that information differently. So
Right.
some people understood what I was saying, but they couldn't physically understand it. So
Right.
I physically would put them into a position so they could see it, and then I expressed the same communication while we watched the video. So there was a visual, so they could see their body adapting, so they could then process that information the way I had hoped they had in the beginning.
Yeah, it's really great. So you're getting like all different styles. So people have different learning styles, and then you also were open to adjusting it for each student. Does anyone else think of any other qualities of someone who's a really good communicator?
I'm somebody that, at least when I'm communicating with somebody, or if I'm listening to what their situation is, I'm somebody that's really good at trying to put myself in their shoes
So empathy.
to understand necessarily where their feelings or how certain things are understood, their process of like proper processing information. So I think like in terms of like with work, my brother's just been a bunch of different places recently, so it's like trying to understand where he's at while he's going through certain things with work and stuff like that. So I think like that's something that I always do when I'm trying to communicate and listen to somebody, is that I will always attempt to put myself in their shoes.
That's really great. Yeah, so both of you guys are right. Empathy is really important to be an effective communicator. Being open and honest is really important, and a part of being open is adjusting, how you might have to take in information or give information. The ability to handle miscommunication, being able to be aware of your own emotions, maybe someone else's. And especially if you're teaching or if you're leading an activity, being concise, clear, and confident is really important. We call it the 3 C's. And then the 2 that I'm going to focus on the most is being authentic and genuine, and being an active listener. So being authentic and genuine, I think it's more difficult than we think it is, because especially today, and people who are maybe a little type A and stuff, we really want it to sound perfect all the time. And it's really difficult to be authentic and genuine when you're speaking with someone you're not as comfortable with, because we're trying to maybe sound a certain way, or we're trying to say what we think they want to hear. So it's always good to remember that you want to try and be as authentic as possible, and not like pre-plan what you want to say or think about in advance. Basically, you don't want to have a script when you're communicating. So I'm going to go around the room and I'm just going to point, and I want you to say whatever word comes to mind when I point to you. Just at that moment, what comes to your mind. And I'm just gonna go randomly around the room, so there's gonna be no order. But before I do that, by a show of hands, who already started thinking of what word they were gonna say?
Wait, I don't even know what this word is about.
Any word. Yes.
Exactly.
Alright, well, we're actually not gonna do that. Basically, the point of that was, I wanted to see who already was thinking of the word before we started the activity. Everyone except for Corey. She didn't get the activity, but it's just to prove that we just naturally want to pre-plan things, and we want to think of it ahead of time, and it's just that you're not gonna effectively communicate if you do that. For two reasons. One, because then you could have missed something I was saying because your attention and your focus was diverted to what word you were going to say while you were also listening to me. So obviously for this example, you weren't missing anything too important, but if it's, something, a really important conversation, you can miss a crucial key message. Exactly. And then this directly leads to active listening because you aren't actively listening if you're already planning in your head what you're going to say next. And active listening, I think, is something that's really hard, and even if you are a good listener, it's something that we can always continue to work on. And active listening is when you're listening to someone and you have an intent to really want to understand what the message is that they're saying. And visual eye contact is something, nodding your head, just showing that you're with the person and you're wanting to understand what they're saying. So to wrap up this little lesson about communication, I think that understanding communication and choosing to practice communication, all of those qualities that I talked about, it will be a really big investment and it will lead to more success in your personal life and in teamwork activities. So I hope that you all learned something, and this will lead us into our activity. So it's called Paper Chains. So it's really fun. And basically, you guys know what paper chain is, right?
Yes.
You like this, and then you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That. So that's a paper chain. And I'm going to split you into teams in a second, but the goal, there's going to be 3 rounds. And for every single round, the goal is to create the longest paper chain.
Don't get competitive.
So whatever team wins gets to share. They're really good. And if it's a really close call, I brought my Physique 57 tape measure, so I will help you measure the chains. But it's just whoever has the longest chain, okay? So I'm just gonna go around. These are gonna be random teams. So team 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. So if you're 2, oh wait.
I'm 2.
1. Wait, I'm watching.
Okay. So team 1 go over here. Team 2 go over here. Okay. Team 1.
Right, team 2.
But if we each start making eye contact,
Wait, no strategizing yet. No. So the goal is to create the longest paper chain. You have 2 minutes, and you can use the supplies in your bag only. So you have 2 minutes to create a paper chain, and I'll tell you when you can touch the bag, the equipment. So no strategizing yet. Everyone is very excited. Can I get the timer going? We're talking about wait, two things. This is important. This is really important. There's scissors involved. And safety is our #1 priority. So it has to be really important to be careful with the scissors. And when I say stop, you have to stop. Okay. So does anyone have questions first?
How big do they have to be?
We have to use the scissors.
It's choice, personal choice. We have competitive people.
how about I cut things to tape?
One more.
1 minute left.
What?
Yes! Wait. Oh God, I'm so stressed out. Wait, so do I connect to you? Yeah, start connecting.
There's a bunch of them on the list. Okay.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah. We gotta do the 2. 30 seconds. Oh, wait, we need a piece. One piece. Okay. I need one more. Get the tape. Go put it over there. Too slow. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop.
My team doesn't even be able to do the difference because you guys are so high. So let's come over here. Let's see what
Gentle.
the next year one. You got confused.
Oh, they-
Oh,
yeah.
no. Pick a leader. Each team pick a leader. So talk amongst yourself to pick a leader. Christian, and Christian, come on. Who wants to be the leader? Yeah. Okay.
Go.
All right, Courtney. So everyone else, while I take them outside to explain the instructions, just clean up so you can have any tape that you pre-cut and clean up all of the supplies, all the extra paper, and just put it. You can just put it over there.
We don't have any extra
But
paper.
don't put it in your bag. I'll take it.
That's what we want.
So you can get like on the wall, it's not.
Here's my tape. We're using these sort of use this chain again.
No, you're not. So you're not you get it from the table. Yeah, it's just okay. So you guys can just talk amongst yourselves for 1 second. Oh wait, I need to get this. And I'm going to talk to the leaders in the hallway. So leaders come out here with me.
Because you're from 503.
Okay, so this is round 2. Once you get back to your team, I'm going to start the clock. You have 30 seconds to explain the rules to your team, and I'll give you a countdown when it's almost up. You could use that to also strategize, whatever you want, 30 seconds. The rules for this is that once the 30 seconds start, there is no talking at all amongst the team, and everyone can only use their dominant hand. They cannot, so their non-dominant hand cannot touch any of the supplies.
Okay.
Those are the only two rules. And it's like the longest paper chain into
So we have 30 seconds
30 seconds.
to convey that.
Yes. 30 seconds to convey that. No talking after the 30 seconds. When I say 2 minutes, this is your new supplies. And this is all you can use. Here's your team supplies.
My table's a little farther away from the door, so I'm gonna wait.
You could move, yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. And this is, yeah.
Okay, so no talking, no dominant hand.
Yes. Any other questions?
No, the undominant or the dominant hand? You said only the
You
dominant?
can only use your dominant
Gotcha.
hand.
Gotcha.
That's your dominant hand. Okay. Okay, leaders are
Once I get to you. You have 30 seconds. So, go.
Use our dominant hand to touch any of the supplies. So I think we're going to have one person hold the paper as we have scissors, and we're going to use our body language to communicate.
You can't start building, sorry, you can't start building until I.
Oh.
10 seconds for instructions.
Dominant. Only dominant.
And no talk. Okay. Keep going.
And start building. No talk, no. No talking. No talking. Links will be deducted. Oh, one link deducted from you too. One minute left. Mm-hmm. 30 seconds left. Five, four, three, two, one. Stop. All right, let's see the we have a clear winner. We have
Oh wait, they got points deducted, right?
oh, they did get one link to rip that off.
You still won.
I think they won still.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we got team 2. All right. Don't get discouraged. This next round counts for 2 points, so you guys can still tie. You can come back. I need the leaders to come back with me. And are we doing stuff with the extra papers? Yeah. So get rid of all the extra papers and then take some files back into here. Yeah. Here's supplies back in here. Okay, fantastic. She goes, they're all cheaters. Okay. So for this round, there's 4 minutes, and that includes giving the instructions. So there's no set time for the instructions, so you can start whenever you think you're done giving the instructions. Again, the goal is to create the longest paper chain, but now there's 4 minutes for everyone, which I will say out loud. But you have to give the instructions with no speaking. So however you want to do it, no speaking allowed. This time you have to only use your non-dominant hand. And there's a pattern for the paper chain. So it's 2 white, 1 pink, 2 white, 1 blue. 2 white, 1 pink, 2 white, 1 blue. No talking. Yes. No talking for anything. So the second you start with the team and I start the timer, no one's allowed to speak ever. So you have to give the instructions with no speaking. No, they're not allowed to speak. They're not allowed to. If they ask a question, I guess they have to figure it out. And you guys have to. Yeah, part of the instructions.
But we're not gonna tell them, well, we're gonna communicate that
Everything is
sequence and everything
communicated
is
outside. Yes. And then, what's the other rule?
What's that?
The other rule is if non-dominant right now. There's 3 rules to get
The
across.
sequence, non-dominant, but no verbal.
Yes. Here is your surprise.
So we're gonna walk in there and you're just gonna, you're
I'm
gonna
just
give
gonna
us a
say we have 4
timer.
minutes.
and
Yeah,
then-
I'm gonna set the timer. Yeah. Alright, go to your.
Joe Hazard.
Watch your shirt.
Joe Hazard.
Cut that.
No.
My favorite.
Everyone's there? So for this round is 4 minutes. There's 4 minutes and go. Left. One minute left.
see? This is pretty close. We got blue, we got pink. It's a tie. You guys had to share the Pop-Tarts amongst all the
That was for 2 points. That was a double trouble.
Double jeopardy.
Oh no!
I took away.
Yeah, but everybody knows that consistency and beauty is really important.
Whatever. We're gonna stay in the circle. We're gonna debrief this. So, what went well and what didn't go well? Anyone can speak.
No, we got a good system.
Okay.
Open and adapting to everybody else's suggestions.
Okay. Well, this team
Our
over here.
system started off a little rough, but then we ended up not talking and we figured it out.
Not talking. So sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, do you think that sometimes less energy, less chaoticness than? Yeah. And I noticed that even when I was watching between the second round and the third round of this team over here, like your chain was so much longer, yet you had less resources. Why do you think that is?
Maybe not as much back and forth, like with not necessarily listening to each other and just kind of thinking about like what you're trying to get done. And we just looked at each other and like figured it out without the conflict of like fighting over each other's voices maybe.
Yeah, there's more like teamwork.
Yeah.
It was a collective consciousness. Like, I don't know what happened over here, but like as we were doing stuff, as the pink one was getting put, there was already one coming in, and somebody already had tape that was already put. You had the tape always ready to go. It was good.
That's where focus.
Like, oh, I'm gonna do this by myself. I'm gonna try to make a whole one by myself, and then we realized that was too hard, so we're like, oh, we're gonna help.
And once you take a factor out of being able to use all of your able arms and everything, it's actually like then you have to depend on somebody else to understand what
Yeah,
you're doing.
Exactly. Yes. It's like you have to use the resources you have. Sometimes, as a team, it's better to use what the other people can bring instead of just trying to work on your own and get things
I
done.
mean, we connected right away. It was like you grab the tape, I'm pulling.
Yeah, and
like,
you know
we-
your role.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're gonna do this.
Roles. Could you guys share? Can you share some of the roles from your team that you guys established?
Yeah, like both times when there was the cutting involved, like what you three kind of went over the cutting.
We were tied. You guys were taping.
And it wasn't even like a fighting of who. It's like whoever picked up whatever at that point was like we were all accepting. It's like cool. Well, this is all one collective goal. It's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask, is that how you guys came to the roles? Kind of?
Pretty much.
Just naturally?
Whatever was needed.
Yeah.
There's no tape. Get on tape.
Yeah.
What about the other team?
I think we had some people that were designated cutting taker, but we like, as I think it was more of like focusing on what was happening, and like as we saw that like towards the end we were running out of white, so we jumped on the cutting and made that work. But I also felt like when we were using our non-dominant hand, we were more focused on what was happening because we never used that hand. So we're like, I just think that our brains were more in the moment. We were present.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that affected the communication maybe?
Well,
Like-
we won that round, so.
One round.
I think that was the most important round because then we tied with you.
Exactly. So this is for my leaders, this question, and then I'll turn it around to everyone. How was it different from when you were able to use your voice to give the instructions versus when you couldn't speak?
I kind of pre-planned what I was going to do, and like once I was given the instructions, I kind of had it in my head how I was going to relay the information. And my only thing was I was just worried if they were going to understand it, you know. But they seemed to get it.
And did you guys feel as if it was easy to understand?
It was
Yeah.
clear.
Clear. How would you have maybe done it differently if you had one more try to give the instructions?
I was actually thinking about ways to manipulate the paper. So instead of doing like strips, you know, just go around the perimeter and just keep it going and just have one, Do you know what I mean? So like,
Yeah,
just
totally.
cutting around
Yeah,
and just
just cutting
making one
into,
long
yeah.
one, so it's less gaping. It's just really, you'll have two chains, but the thing is like, it's big, so I'm kind of strategizing on
Okay.
like different approaches.
Okay.
So not necessarily
Courtney, what about you?
I think my team listened better when I didn't have my verbal communication skills.
Because we knew we had to actively listen to.
Right, because they were like, oh, we gotta really focus. And the hardest part was conveying the two white pink, then two white blue, because I only had 3 pieces of white paper.
Right.
So I was like, so that part was the most difficult.
How would you have done it if you had one word chance? How would you have done it differently?
I probably would have held up the white and then like this, and then held up the pink like that.
And what if there was a time constraint for the team members? Like say you guys only had like 20 seconds to listen to it. Do you think you guys would have done anything differently in listening to the instructions? There was like a time.
I think our instructions were really quick.
They are
Yeah,
fast.
like 5 seconds.
I
or
think
so.
that we
Okay.
jumped on exactly with what she was saying,
Yeah.
pretty much under these 20 seconds, I'd say.
There was good like eye contact, like body language, where she was like, alright. And we were like, okay, yeah. There was a lot of body movement that I think we all like immediately were like, oh shit, what's going on? And she was like, there wasn't just body language, but there was like
Intensity.
Intensity,
Yeah.
yeah. There was an
Sense of urgency.
sense of
Yes,
urgency with
yes.
this, yeah.
Yeah.
So again, that just shows that like our communication really relies more than just speaking. It also relies so heavily on our body language, as we talked about earlier. So for the last question, how can you use what you learned today and take that with you into your everyday life?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
How can you take what was learned today?
just really impact that nonverbal has on communication. So instead of really just solely relying on your verbal, just understand that your nonverbal kind of it constitutes for more than the verbal. So,
And I think for a lot of us in this room, actually with the body language, we don't realize that just because we're our dancers and we don't use our words a lot more, that our body language, even in dancing, just around like how much more we actively always are looking at body language versus then like words in terms of like communication for our side of like work and what we do in our profession.
So what might you do differently now that you're more aware of that?
just kind of posture, be open. So if you're talking to me and I'm just kind of turning this way, or I'm doing one of these, it's just present yourself. You know, let that person know that.
Great class.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think this was really, really great, and thank you guys for being such great participants. And just to end it, I want to share a quote from Tony Robbins, and he said that the quality of your life is the quality of your communication. So, yeah.
Yeah.